The Fed15 podcast is presented by Serving Those Who Serve, a financial planning practice serving federal government employees and retirees all over the country. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended to be taken as financial advice. All listeners should consult their personal advisors before taking any action. The opinions expressed by our hosts are their own and do not reflect the views, policies, or position of either Raymond James or Serving Those Who Serve. Securities are offered through Raymond James Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services are offered through Raymond James Financial Services Advisors, Inc. Serving Those Who Serve is not a registered broker-dealer and is independent of Raymond James Financial Services, Inc.
Welcome to this week's episode of the Fed15 podcast, presented by Serving Those Who Serve. Each week, we'll discuss the latest news and info that Feds need to know in 15 minutes or less. So whether you're a seasoned federal employee or just starting out in your career, Fed15 has got you covered. Grab your coffee, kick back, and we'll tell you what you need to know but might have missed. We're your hosts. I'm Chelsea English, and I'm joined by the prodigious Dan Sipe.
Oh, okay.
How's it going,
Boy, I'll
Dan?
tell you. Okay, a man of my age that still has the opportunity to be prodigious, I will joyfully accept that characterization. Thank you. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm
Well-deserved.
touched. So how you doing, Chels?
I'm doing great. I'm excited for football season.
Oh, yeah. I seem to recall that you have a preferred football team in the college ranks. The name escapes me. Which one is it?
Yeah, understandable. That would be none other than the 2023 national champions, the Michigan Wolverines.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Go Blue.
Go Blue. That's right. Yeah, very excited for a new season. I think there's a little bit of trepidation coming off a national championship winning season, losing our head coach, our star quarterback, most of our defensive staff, and most of our starters. But Joel Klatt, who is, arguably college football's top analyst, he predicted this week that he still expects to see Michigan in the college football playoff this year. So we'll see. Don't want to get ahead of ourselves.
Your assistant coach was a bit of a beast because I believe he was 3-0 during the suspension stretch.
That's right. That's right.
And it's not like Michigan didn't have a bullseye on them.
Oh, that's
during
sure.
that time from the teams they were playing against. So
absolutely. And I think that motivated them. I think the challenges they faced last season put a little extra pep in their step, a little more motivation to kind of prove themselves to everyone else. But we have what a lot of people are calling the toughest season in the Big Ten this year, especially with the Big Ten expansion. We're playing USC, Oregon, Washington. We're playing Texas. So it'll be a tough season, but it'll be fun. I'm excited. Regardless, I'm still coming off that high of the Rose Bowl win and the national championship game. So it'll be fun regardless. And no matter what happens, we always have the 2023 season.
Well, there you go. There you go. And I'd imagine it's always fun in Ann Arbor no matter what.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, it's always a good time in Ann Arbor. We're heading to a couple games at the start of the season, and it'll be good to be back for the first time in a while. So looking forward to it.
Well, very cool. So what do we on tap for the feds that are tuning in? I know we've been talking sports a lot. So what do our feds have to look forward to in this episode?
Yes. Today, you're going to talk to us about managing your TSP with big life changes. Looking forward to hearing about that. And then at the end, I'm going to do a little July TSP performance recap.
Awesome. Okay. So we're all TSP all the time. So yeah, see, here's the thing. And sometimes I just get this vibe that the powers that be at TSP are kind of putting too much pressure on it. Like it's the only plan you need or something like that. TSP is a product. TSP is a tool. Just keep that in mind, folks, and you will never be disappointed by it. What makes the difference with tools is strategy and use. Because the best axe in the world is a lousy hammer. So you need to pick the right tool. You need to use it the right way. So our article is from our great writing team is managing TSP during marriage, but I would submit it's just managing TSP as a human, through your life. So a couple of things. And again, when I do a flyover, I encourage you, head to the website, read the article, because I'm going to hit some high points, but I'm not going to be able to do it justice. So one thing to keep in mind, and they're specifically focusing on initially managing while married, TSP, like any 401k, IRA, is an individual account. So sometimes people get confused and they think that they can combine them in retirement or make it joint with a spouse or something like that. You really, really can't. However, if you are, managing your TSP in a marital relationship, things to keep in mind, make sure your beneficiaries are up to date. If you attend our TSP webinar, that's something that you're going to hear from my buddy Ed over and over and over again. When in doubt, fill it out. If you're not sure that you have the right and most current TSP beneficiary designation, just fill out a new one. It can't hurt you. So you have the ability to designate your spouse as beneficiary. You have the ability to designate children as contingents. You can do trusts, things like that. We have a great article on the website on designated beneficiaries. Be sure to check that out. But here's the other thing. If you're managing funds as a couple, your spouse may or may not work for the federal government. So if that's the case, they might be in private 401k plan. One of the nice things about TSP is its big, broad indexes, which makes it really easy to allocate, meaning that you can take advantage of all of the 5 core funds in the right mix for your individual ability, but you can also do it for your collective risk tolerance. And why do I say that? One of the things that I've learned through the years is that private 401k plans, sometimes they're with a big outfit like Fidelity and there's lots of great index funds in them. And that's fantastic. But other times it's somebody's golf buddy who set it up. And I'm not knocking any employer for having a 401k for their people. But many times you'll see that the choices seem to be voluminous, but what it really falls into with all of those privately managed funds is there's a handful that are good, a chunk that are okay, and some that are not so good. So when it comes to laying out your strategy, you want to use the better funds, lower fees, things like that. Well, that might mean that your spouse's 401k might be over allocated. Let's say that 401k, the best funds all happen to be U.S. large, and those are the ones you're making use of. Good news. You can think of your portfolio together and make up for the difference within the TSP. More of that is in the article. Now, if we're talking about it during marriage, unfortunately, we also have to talk about it in divorce because that does happen. It's part of life. So TSP is marital property and can be subject to division during divorce or retirement benefits court order. RBCO can be issued that tells how things are going to be allocated. I'm not going to dive deeply into that right now. Check out the article. We go into that because there are specific rules. And on our website in the vault, we have the complete divorce guide for federal employees from our guy, the guru, Ed Zerndorfer. Be sure to hit that up. But this can really affect how you're going to be handling your TSP over the long term, including even how you might be allocating funds to it. So if heaven forbid you're going through a divorce, make sure you're paying attention to these types of things in that type of planning. Okay, another thing that can happen, this doesn't have to do with the married and not married, job changes. If you leave federal service, you can keep your money in TSP. And further, I encourage you to never completely close it out. If you leave at least $200 in there, you keep TSP open because you might come back. And before you to give me the eye roll and say, okay, boomer, I'm never coming back. I've been doing this 40 years. You'd be amazed how many people come back that weren't going to come back. Especially since if you come back and do as little as 3 months, depending upon how you were positioned before, and you worked at least 5 years before and you had the federal health insurance at that time, you can come back to as little as 3 months and retire and carry federal health insurance for life. It'll be a small pension, but federal health insurance. How do I know that? We actually help somebody go through that. So if you have questions about that, hit us up, ask STWS at stwserve.com. This is what comes from all the time that we've put in. So if you do leave federal service, you do have the ability to roll those funds into your new company's 401k. Make sure it's a good one before you do that. You also have the ability to roll it out into an IRA. That can certainly be a good idea. That can certainly be a not good idea. It depends. You have to examine all the charges. Of course, you can take all the money out, probably going to get hammered with penalties, so I don't recommend that. And you also have the ability to buy an annuity. I would be very, very, very careful before you do that. And Chelsea will hit this for us. Surprisingly, we happen to have a TSP webinar if you'd like to join on that. So Chelsea, tell us how TSP did.
Yeah. All right. Let's dive into July TSP performance. First off, all 5 core TSP funds posted gains in July. Not only are these funds up for the month, they're also showing positive returns year to date and over the past 12 months. Let's break down the performance of each fund. So the S fund was the star standout in July with a gain of over 6%. This marks the highest monthly return for any TSP fund so far this year. The I fund also showed solid performance with a return of 2.86%.
Nice.
The C fund, which has been a TSP participant favorite for quite a while now, significantly trailed behind the 2 other equity funds, returning 1.21%.
But Chelsea, the TSP is always, or the C fund's always the best ever.
I
ever
know.
In all situations.
I know, right? Shocking. And you'll see as we move on to F and G fund, C fund trailed behind even F fund for July. So I know. We'll move on to that. So moving to the bond funds, the F fund gained 2.33%. That's almost double what C fund did. While the G fund managed a modest gain of 0.39%. Now, when comparing the bond funds, it's interesting to note that year to date, the F fund is trailing the G fund. However, over the past 12 months, F fund has actually outperformed the G fund. So these short-term market moves serve as a good reminder of why it's important to have that appropriate asset allocation in your TSP. Now, speaking of the bond market, speculation about future interest rate cuts is definitely influencing current market sentiment. And as we're recording today, Fed Chairman Jerome Powell just delivered his speech at the Jackson Hole Symposium. And he noted that while inflation has improved, the Fed will approach rate cuts cautiously, depending on future economic data. So these kinds of announcements often lead to market swings as investors are reacting to new information, and that could impact performance of TSP funds in the coming months. So with these potential market swings, it's tempting, and we see this all the time, it's tempting to react and move into safer positions like the G fund. However, making quick decisions based on short-term trends can introduce unnecessary risk and volatility into your portfolio. So staying consistent with an appropriate asset allocation and long-term strategy tends to yield better results than trying to time the market. Remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Absolutely. And great advice, Chelsea. I know you come from a state where it snows. I'm actually originally from Pennsylvania. It snows there too. We're now in the DC area where if it snows, people just freak out.
Right.
But I'm willing to bet that your fam taught you what my fam was, and that is when the road conditions are uncertain due to ice, snow, what have you, don't jerk the wheel.
That's exactly right. Yep.
And I think it's the same rule.
Absolutely. And as you mentioned earlier, I'm going to touch on, don't forget, we have a free TSP webinar every single month. So I'll be hosting the next one alongside the Ed Zerndorfer, and that's on Thursday, September 19th from 1 to 4 p.m.
Wow. That's awesome. He gets the same initial title as the Wolverines. So excellent.
Careful. Don't let any Buckeyes hear that.
Oh, they think they own me, but so does Penn State. And so, okay, I think that's all the time we have before we start a Big Ten war here. But we will be back next week, I promise, to bring you the latest updates you need to make informed decisions about your career and financial well-being as a Fed.
Yes. And be sure to subscribe to this podcast on our YouTube channel, FedLife, so that you never miss an episode. And please, please, please remember to share it with your friends and colleagues.
Yep. Be sure to subscribe. And for more information about all these topics, be sure to check out the blog. That's blog.stwserve.com, or just head over to stwserve.com. There is a ton of info there. You can spend days and not waste your time. And subscribe to our newsletter, The Weekly Serving, and you'll get all the latest news for Feds shot straight to your inbox every week. You don't even need to go look.
And for those who want to dive even deeper into learning about your federal benefits and financial planning for Feds, we encourage you to join us for one of our complimentary webinars. I already mentioned the TSP webinar on September 19th. We also have our very popular Social Security webinar on September 12th from 1 to 4 p.m. and our most popular FEHB, Medicare, and TRICARE webinar on September 18th from 10:30 to 2:30 with Dan and Ed. Or if you prefer a one-on-one approach, please feel free to reach out to our team directly for a financial planning consultation at askstws@stwserve.com.
There you go. Okay, folks, that wraps it for us. Thank you for listening to Fed15. I'm Dan Sipe.
And I'm Chelsea English.
And we will see you next week.